Hey, welcome. We are revisiting the Mania, primarily a WrestleMania rewatch podcast. I'm Carlos,
And I'm Maria.
and today we are gonna take a side quest out of here because we haven't had enough time to finish our full breakdown and review of WrestleMania 37. But since I was reminded that this is the anniversary, the 20-year anniversary of ECW One Night Stand, and with the recent passing of the wrestler Sabu, I was like, you know what? Why don't we finally get this episode out, as this was something that was recommended to us? But we are not alone. We have returning guests. Yes, you heard that right. Not just one guest, but two guests. We have Wayne, Semi Dry Chicken from Podcast Championship Wrestling, and the camera shy individual with the PCW podcast logo is Dre. You might remember Dre from our WrestleMania X8 revisit. And Wayne, you've been here. I think this is like your fifth time. You're like you reached the Booker T status. So as far as this gets concerned, so what's going on with you guys? What's new?
You know what? We just wrapped up a PCW episode. Me and Dre. Getting ready for predictions for Night of Champions, which is this weekend. And then we also discussed, because in the wrestling world there is no breaks, right? We have the Great American Bash coming up. We have Saturday Night Main Event coming up, and then we also have Evolution. Ooh. Bam, 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 bam. One right after another. There's no room for rest, but we do have to go out, so you can check that out.
Yeah. Terry, anything you else want to add before we get into this?
No. Wayne covered it all. Like I said, it's a marathon right now, and all the shows that WWE's putting out one after the other. So we're banging them out.
Nice.
Yeah. And I think it was nice though to come back and like dust off an old pay-per-view, because I was kind of excited about this. It was like I need a break from the modern day wrestling, so it was nice to go back and find some core memories.
Right. So the year is 2005. ECW, to my understanding, has been a little slow running for some years. Y'all can tell me if that's different, but not in the hearts of fans like yourselves. WWE saw the DVD sales of the rise and fall of ECW and knew the cult wasn't gone. It was hungry. Do you all agree?
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure I have that DVD as well for the rise and fall of ECW, because this was in the peak of my WWE or WWF DVD collection phase, where damn near every pay-per-view they had or documentary or superstar series and stuff that they put out, I was buying it. So I was definitely one of those ECW faithful who had that DVD and watched it.
Now, when we were watching this, Dre or Wayne, were you guys watching ECW? Because this is towards the beginning of me being in high school when ECW started coming up more. Mentions like from what I could see, like in magazines and things like that, when the early beginnings of the wrestling community, when we had to subscribe to newsletters and things like that. So I would only be able to see ECW if I stayed up to maybe 12 or 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
Locally. So I don't know if you guys got to see the majority of the talent that was showcased in this pay-per-view or not.
I mean, I you would think there was somebody like me who grew up so close to Philly, I would have grown up with ECW, but I didn't. I was a WWF child. I was a WWE teenager. Like, this is June. I think this is in June, right?
Yeah, June 12th.
So I am 17 years old, fresh out of high school. Like, I think at the time I was really involved in whatever was going on Raw and SmackDown. So for me, a lot of this ECW people coming over, this was new to me. And then I started getting interested in some of these characters. And, lo and behold, like, we look at this card, a lot of these guys later in the future have pretty damn good careers.
Mm-hmm.
Some more than others. But yeah, this was kind of when ECW came over to WWE. That was kind of my first taste of it. So this pay-per-view had to dig deep and like remember this. I think I remember this pay-per-view because we had a discussion off air because I was thinking, One Night Stand. Immediately, I thought of 2006. Here I am doing research on 2006. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go home and I'm gonna watch this. And then I texted you, and you're like, oh no, it's 2005. I'm like, close one, but I still enjoyed it nonetheless. But yeah, so this is kind of a lot of these superstars on this card are very new to me. Some I know of. There was a lot of people I have no idea who that is.
Right.
But they
are there a few names that you can throw out there? Because I said, are there a few names that you can throw out there
that I don't know or that I do know?
That you do know. I think that list would probably be shorter than the list that you don't know.
I don't know. Like I know we obviously know Jericho, Lance Storm. I know Lance Storm. I know who Tajiri and Super Crazy and Nunzio are. But I think the reason why I know a lot of these characters is because of them being absorbed into WWE roster later on. Because, but I don't know much about like Psychosis or Mike Awesome, but I do know a lot about Rob Van Dam and Rhyno. I've seen tons of their matches. Sabu, of course, the Dudley Boyz, Tommy Dreamer, and Sandman. So yeah, I think it's more or less like when they came over to the WWE roster, I found out who these characters are, but I'm interested in like, okay, I want to see some early Sandman matches. I want to see some earlier Dudley Boy matches because I'm kind of interested in it. Like it made me, and this is what I'm talking about when I was younger. I got interested in seeing what kind of superstar these people are, right. Digging into their past once we got their library finally.
So did any of you feel like, and we'll get to Dre in a second, but did any of you feel like ECW sold out when this happened?
Dre, you want to take this one?
For this particular show, not at all. This didn't feel like a sellout. This, especially compared to the subsequent show we got in 2006, this felt probably about as close to being authentic ECW as you could get from a WWE product. Like I said, as Wayne mentioned, for him it was just coming out of high school when ECW was popping. So for me, ECW was pretty much my high school years, like late middle school when it first started, but it wasn't really on the radar yet back when it first started, and it was just Eastern Championship Wrestling. But then as it became Extreme Championship Wrestling and ECW, and then, in the middle of a Monday Night Wars where every Monday we're all sitting down and either watching Nitro or Raw, there was still that underbelly of, hey, there's this other thing as well. Like it ain't just WCW and WWF. Right. Like, hey, there's this other thing, ECW, check this out that, if you knew, you knew. A couple people will talk about it. And it was hard to find because, again, it wasn't on a major network. I think for me, it aired, I want to say maybe Friday nights or something like that, but it was late at night. Like, I don't think it came on until maybe like 10 o'clock. I couldn't even, for the life of me, I can't remember even what channel it came on. It was one of the things where if I happened to catch it, I'd be like, oh, it's that ECW thing they was telling me about, and I would watch it. So, yeah, pretty much everybody that was on the show, well, just about everybody that was on the show, I was fairly familiar with, from the Rob Van Dams, the Tajiris, the FBI with Little Guido and Tommy Dreamer, Lance Storm, all those names, even Stone Cold Steve Austin, long before he was even the ringmaster or Stone Cold, and obviously Terry Funk and the Cactus Jacks, the Mikey Whipwrecks, all of those ECW guys from back then, Sandman, Shane Douglas, all of them. I remember seeing those guys, and it was one of those things that you felt extra cool if you knew about ECW. Obviously everybody was watching WCW, everybody was watching Nitro, and everybody was watching Raw. But if you were one of the ones who was watching ECW too and was catching that, yeah, you had like an extra level of wrestling cred back in the day, because like you knew about that underground thing.
Right.
Definitely.
And so we talk about being on the WWF bandwagon. Where were you when you were watching ECW, like this episode, the show?
Well, One Night Stand I watched because it was being produced and being pushed out there by WWE. I never watched an ECW pay-per-view. Like Barely Legal is one of the ones that they had, and I can't remember what the other one was called. But
come on, you think our parents are gonna let us watch a pay-per-view?
That says Barely Legal? Yeah, exactly.
That's your mom. You're right though. Like the three of us, all of us, like at this point in time when ECW, before it was absorbed by WWE, we're in school. We're going to bed early. We're not allowed to be up, late. Like Dre said, it was on real late. And sometimes maybe hard to reach. But I could definitely not see me pitching to my parents like, I want to download this pay-per-view. It's called Barely Legal. And it's called like Extreme Champion. No, I don't think she would have. No, she would have.
Not at all.
No.
I don't know.
I wouldn't either. I'd be like, what are you watching? You're not watching that. Get out of here.
Yeah, we're
Barely Legal for what? It's time for you to go to sleep.
Version of it. Not even 17. We're talking like early teens. There's no way.
Right. You're barely getting away with watching Nitro and Raw as it is, given this Attitude Era and some of the stuff that was on Raw at the time.
Right.
And done at like almost 11 o'clock at night on a school night. Monday.
So I definitely enjoyed watching this. There was so much action. We saw blood, we saw fighting, all the wrestling that and during the show made you say this is ECW. Like what set it apart from WWF at that time?
Oh, maybe the headshots.
That's true.
It's like every match. It's just there was weapons involved of some kind, and they're not just They won't always just have standard weapons. Like I saw a barbed wire ball. Was that what that was?
I don't know if it was a ball. I think it was just wrapped up. Are you talking towards the end where he did the tombstone and everything? Yeah. It was more like, I think, like just bunched up. It wasn't a ball.
I'll tell you what, though, ECW, heavy use of chairs and kendo sticks and
tables.
When the tables, because when they lifted up the ring apron, there was like 6 or 7 stacked. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like bread. Like, because I who knows how many they'll go through tonight. So we buy them in bulk. And I did like throughout the show, they showed flashbacks, of peak ECW moments, stuff that I never saw, but stuff that even today I'm still like, holy shit. I mean, the famous incident of them throwing all those steel chairs in the ring. Like that's a very famous ECW clip that like I would always see floating around the internet when I was younger. And like even today, I see it show up once in a while. I'm like, damn, that's still crazy to this day. Like that clip, and I show people, I'm like, that's ECW. That's not even WWE. Like people were just wild back then.
And there was a wrestler underneath. There were wrestlers underneath all of that.
Yes,
all of that. But I mean, like extreme. It definitely sets us all apart. Like how we have had it in the past, but how often do we get people going through lit tables, and just some of the unique use of weapons. We don't get that anymore.
And I'm always curious. I haven't been able to like do a deep dive into this one. I haven't been able to look up any like any kind of interviews or anything like that. Are there any behind the scenes stories that you all know of that surfaced since this aired?
The only thing that really, I don't know if you call it, I mean, the one story that really from this specific show that always sticks out with me is at the end of the show when the Raw and SmackDown guys come down and they get to fighting and all that stuff. If you watch JBL and he's wailing on the Blue Meanie, friend of PCW, he's getting legitimate shots in on him. Like he's not, working with him.
Yeah.
He's punching him. And so you see why Blue Meanie is legitimately bloody afterwards, because JBL was getting legitimate real shots in on him, basically using the brawl as an excuse to be dirty and get real shots in on this guy.
Wow.
And so that's the one story that always sticks out. And sometime later, I think it was on maybe on an episode of SmackDown or something, but the BWO get a lick back. They basically get their receipt back on JBL, specifically Stevie Richards, and he clocks. He gets a chair shot in on JBL, and like if you look it up, you can find it. I mean, Stevie Richards lays into that chair shot, like doesn't hold back nothing. He goes full throttle chair shot and freaking lays out JBL, and he did it as a receipt for what JBL did to Blue Meanie at One Night Stand.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wayne, you have any interesting tidbit before we get into the first match?
I mean, I think they also brought up the real life, dating situation between Edge and Lita and Matt Hardy. I mean, at this point in time, Matt got fired from the company.
Yeah.
And Edge is with Lita. So this is before Matt Hardy makes his, comeback after being fired. So I thought that was kind of cool to mention that, because as soon as they brought that up, I was like, oh, that's right. Don't date your coworkers.
Yeah, that was a very inside wrestling thing that was done at that time, because it was the like worst kept secret in wrestling, like the thing that everybody knew but wasn't publicly acknowledged until Paul Heyman just basically put him on blast.
Yep.
So I heard Paul Heyman's promo. I heard it maybe a couple of times because it was a lot of shouting. Do you all think it was scripted? What do you think about it?
No,
do you have any opinions, or do you just not?
I think she's talking about that promo that we had before the main event, match of the tag team match. So he goes out there to thank everybody.
Yeah, he didn't have nobody right for him. He went off. He just, you could tell with his emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I also heard from a recent podcast that Paul Heyman kind of didn't want to revisit this. Paul Heyman's always been a looking through the windshield, not through the rearview mirror type of guy. He's the type of guy who always wants to move forward. But I was thinking that going into this, when I was watching it, you could just tell by his emotions, like he was taking it all in. That was something else. I definitely believe that speech is just, come on, like whenever Paul Heyman gives a speech, I don't ever believe anybody ever writes for Paul Heyman. I always believe maybe he has plot points he has to visit, but or bullet points, but no, I think those all right there, right from the heart.
Yeah. I have to agree with Wayne. Like, I think up to this point, and I'm not sure when Vince started trusting Paul Heyman more, because they've always clashed. When Vince acquired ECW from Paul Heyman was brought in and he was a writer, he was a producer, but Vince would always like push down his ideas and not really do anything that Paul Heyman wanted to do. So the only reason that this pay-per-view happened, like was mentioned previously, is because of the great sales that happened when it's DVD released. At the first a couple of months, it was only lagging behind WrestleMania 20, and eventually it surpassed the WrestleMania 20 DVD.
Like over 245,000 or something like that.
Something, yeah. Sales. So then as news and everything came along, Shane Douglas had caught wind of that, who was working at TNA, that he wanted to beat Vince to the punch and making a memorial show. And he tried to do it, but he came out with Extreme Reunion, and before he could get that out, the WWE sent a cease and desist because he used the word extreme. I didn't know extreme was something that was trademarked along with Extreme Championship Wrestling.
Damn.
So he changed it to a Hardcore Reunion, and he started trying to beat Vince and all the other guys that were working for Vince at the time, which we had Al Snow, and Tommy Dreamer. They all know pretty much everyone else on the roster because they had been together working with them all those years. So it was the first to get him, and now I know why Terry Funk was not on this pay-per-view card. And there was a couple of more that I can't remember the names to. I know why New Jack was not on the card is because he had warrants out for his arrest in New York. So he definitely could not make it in there in time. So besides, that was the only other tidbit in news that I had behind this.
Okay. So we have a lot of heels during the show, right? Do y'all have any favorites during this time? I know that you talked about JBL. We see Edge. I'm probably going to mispronounce his name. Is it Bischoff or Bischoff?
Bischoff.
Yeah. Was this one of the last times he was an announcer? Or
no, he's the Raw general manager. I think he goes up to like 2007 or 2008.
Something like that. You can always tell by his hair. Because he stopped dying.
Right, yeah. First WWE run, Bischoff still had black hair. Second run, WWE Bischoff was gray hair.
Yeah. And this is when he's bald. So he has shaved it off and he's got to regrow back his hair. So
who was the SmackDown general manager at this time? Do we recall?
Probably Stephanie. Was it Stephanie?
Or it shouldn't have been
2005. Yeah. 2005. Either Steph or Teddy.
Yeah.
I don't think or
no.
Well, there was a brief time when Paul Heyman was SmackDown GM, but I don't know if it was during this time.
Yeah. I don't know. That's a good question. For that,
if you are watching and you've made it this far so far, and you know the answer of who was the SmackDown general manager in 2005, please leave a comment below, give us a like, share with a friend.
Don't forget to follow.
Share with a heel, share with a Rudo, share with your Toxica, share with somebody.
Don't forget to follow PCW either.
Yeah. So with that, we'll get with the first match. We have Lance Storm versus Lionheart Chris Jericho. And this match goes for...
It goes for how many minutes?
6 minutes and 35 seconds, I believe.
Thank you.
I got 7 minutes and 15 seconds.
7 minutes and 15 seconds? Well, that's fine. That
Are you counting entrances?
Yeah, you're counting. You're counting from the beginning, counting match time. But that's fine. Let's go ahead and get into it. Maria?
Yeah, so we have Canadian Excellence with the side of ECW Nostalgia. Was Lance Storm retired at this time, or
no? He just wasn't wrestling because he didn't want to wrestle for Vince after the buyout, and I believe that was the WCW buyout, and he had just joined WCW in 2001. So it's a 3-year deal, 4-year deal, depending on it. It might have been towards the end of his contract. Some people chose to write out their contract and still get paid, and some people chose the buyout.
Well, I was excited to see a young Jericho. Did you all hear the crowd chanting, "You sold out" to him? Or
oh yeah,
And I mean, can you blame Jericho? I mean, like his star at this point in time is like white hot. He, of course, started in ECW, then he made it to WCW, where his star grew a little bit more, and then once we got to the Y2J era, there was no stopping this man.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame Jericho for selling out. I mean, if anything, he was probably one of the first big name wrestlers outside of WWE to come into WWE as a big deal. I mean, not counting someone like Ric Flair in the early 90s when he jumped from WCW to WWE, but Jericho came in as a known commodity to WWE, and that was pretty rare for WWE back then. They had pretty much made their thing on, making their own stars from the ground up, or, in the cases of Hall, Nash, and Hogan, or Savage and them being big names in WWE and then going to WCW or somewhere else. Whereas Jericho, yeah, like you mentioned, Carlos, the whole Y2J thing. And when he debuted, that's why he got such a huge pop when he debuted, because everybody already knew who he was because of his work in ECW and WCW. So you can't really fault him for just, going to the next level. He had pretty much done all he could in ECW, so he jumped to WCW. He pretty much done all he could in WCW. He was never going to be a main eventer there with the likes of Hogan and Nash and Goldberg and Sting and them. He was never going to break through to their level. So took his talents up north, and the rest was history for him.
Yeah. Well, Maria, you saw Lance Storm. You see Lionheart Chris Jericho. Who are you rooting for?
Jericho.
You're still rooting for Jericho. Okay.
I am a fan of Jericho. As I keep on seeing him wrestle, I always thought he was a little crabby, but he's been wrestling for such a long time. I thought this was a pretty good technical match, and I thought there were a lot of good moves. So it got me excited to see the rest of the show because it was just really, really good. Do you have any favorite spots?
As for me, I think I was a fan of Lance Storm when he debuted in WCW. I believe he was one of the few individuals to hold 2 titles at once for that company. He held, believe, what do they have? Like the international or
In WCW?
Yeah, he held 2 of them. The
lightweight, like the cruiserweight. They had the cruiserweight championship. Yeah. They had the WCW television, World Television.
Yeah, it was the television championship. I knew that one was for sure, but I don't remember if it was like the lightweight or the cruiserweight. But he held both of those titles at the same time. He was one of the few individuals in that company that actually got to do that. So, I mean, coming over from ECW to be able to be trusted by that, I think was a great mark. And these guys, like they mentioned in the broadcast, are longtime friends. They both train in the famed Heart Dungeon. So what we always say that the best matches come from your, being paired up with your friend.
I thought you were gonna say from the heart.
But no, it just them having 2 familiar people that all the fans, all the marks, everyone would know, and it's kind of like you're safe, like gauge the temperature, gauge the crowd, and see where we go from here. Like, who are we getting? Are we gonna be playing to smart marks? Are we going to be playing to the hardcore crowd? Or we're gonna have to play it safe and just keep it kind of like a WWE house show or things like that. So I kind of like this particular thing. Things that stuck out to me was I love how we had Lance Storm having his single Boston crab, but they call it a Canadian crab, and then Chris Jericho reversed it to the Walls of Jericho, the actual Walls of Jericho, where he's putting basically his knee onto the back of someone's head and stretching them back out. So that one was pretty cool. And I think when you get like just Incredible showing up and the rest of the Impact players, I think that was pretty good because you got to see all their shared history and things along those lines.
I'm not too familiar with Just Incredible. Do you have any information about him? Like, I'm familiar with Jericho, but Just Incredible, he was new to me.
Yeah, great name. I know I'm not as familiar with his work. I know he did a lot of work, obviously a lot of great work in ECW, and I think
he was in WCW for a little bit.
He was in WCW towards the tail end of their run. By that point, I had pretty much switched over to WWE and wasn't really watching the WCW product anymore. And I think from there, he may have had a brief run in WWE that didn't amount to much before I think he moved on to TNA, and I think was where he mostly continued his career. So he's one of those guys that I know of, and I know he was a great worker, but I kind of missed most of his work.
Wayne, any thing that sticks out to you? Anything that you want to go over that we didn't go before we go back to Dre, because he talked about something else?
I mean, this opening match, it's a great opening match. I mean, you have 2 Canadian wrestlers who know each other, who've been tag team partners back in the early 90s. and they train together. So that's kind of the best kind of match you want to see. And we get two other guys later on this card that are very similar, who know each other inside and out. And that's the kind of good quality matches we get. I love those where they're kind of attacking each other and reversing each other's moves nonstop. Just like basically like, I know everything you're gonna put on me. I know how to get out of every move you put on me. But it's like, yeah, but I also know you inside and out. And I don't know. I thought this was a good opening match. I don't know a lot about Lance Storm. I mean, obviously we know everything about Jericho. I mean, this guy has been ECW, WCW, WWE, AEW. This guy's missing, not too much left in his career, but he's still going to this day. I mean, honestly, over this card, there isn't a lot of people on here who are still wrestling or even alive. So it's a very mixed, bag there. But as for the match itself, I thought it was great. I do remember Dawn Marie, because during the Divas era, of course I remember Dawn Marie. She, I think she was the one who was fooling around with Tori Wilson's dad.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Austin had a heart attack and they faked his death.
Yeah.
That's what I know about Dawn Marie.
It's like kayfabe or it's just story?
No, it's kayfabe. It's all
okay.
kayfabe, so. All right. Dre, anything that stuck out to you? Any tidbits that you liked about this match?
For me, it was mostly just great to see a Lance Storm match. Lance Storm has always been one of my favorite wrestlers to watch, just because even though he, really never broke out and became like a main event player, but for me, he was always one of my favorite wrestlers to watch just because he's one of the cleanest wrestlers I've ever watched. Like, if you were to put together a handbook on how to perform wrestling moves, Lance Storm would be every picture. Everything about him looked picture perfect, crisp, clean, like one of the best looking drop kicks you could ever hope to see.
Nice.
Would be from Lance Storm.
Yeah.
And like everything looked about him was just clean, crisp, flawless. I don't know if I've ever seen him injure a guy. I don't know if I've ever seen a botch from him or anything of that nature. He's probably one of the most picture perfect wrestlers I've ever seen. And for him having been removed from wrestling for a while, he showed no signs of rust in this match. Looked like he hadn't missed a beat barely.
Yeah, it's like a testament to him. I was always a fan of his, especially when he was in WCW as part of Team Canada. Him and Elix, was it Elix or Felix Skipper? I don't remember how it was pronounced, but he was also one that he was paired up with a couple of times as a tag team. And I wanted to see more of him. I'm not sure, like the way you're describing him, I'm like, you know what? The best way to describe him to someone that's new to wrestling, like my wife, would be like, he's like the new generation Bret Hart, only he didn't get that run. He didn't get that push because we had already gone forward as far as the wrestling business. We could know it was no longer okay for you just to be a technical mat base, like only telling your story in the ring. You had to not only tell a story in the ring, but you had to tell a story outside of the ring. And unfortunately, I think that's one of the things that Lance Storm fell back on, like he lacked in. He didn't lack skills inside the ring. He was just lacking either charisma or just finding that something to connect with the audience.
Right.
Now, would you, Dre, Wayne, would you recommend anyone go back and watch this, whether a new fan or a returning, like a fan that hasn't revisited ECW One Night Stand and now wants to because it's the 20-year anniversary of the show?
Yeah, I mean, you want to see two good Canadian wrestlers in their prime. Yeah, I absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. If you're a fan of technical wrestling, this is a good match to watch. If you're somebody who has heard of ECW, but all you know of is just the extreme stuff that they did and aren't aware of the other things that ECW brought to the table before WCW and WWE jumped on it, then yes, this is a match that's a good showcase of that.
Right.
And Maria, as you being the smart market training, do you recommend someone that has never watched an ECW match, which was you in particular in this review, that would you recommend someone go out and watch this?
I definitely do. I love old school wrestling. And like Wayne mentioned, it's nice to get a break from the new wrestling or like today's, everyday wrestling. It was rough. It was tough. Like you said, all those chairs, the tables during this whole show. And this was, I think you all mentioned Landstorm's last match against Jericho. Wayne mentioned that they're old tag team partners. So that was pretty cool. Also, you all talked about Just Incredible, and he had some good shots. It's worth a revisit for me. And I say it's a smart opener that honors ECW's roots. So revisit with us.
And as for me, I would recommend that if you are someone that's new to wrestling and want to know and find out about Lance Storm, as we've already talked about him here, he's there's a reason why he's been hired as a trainer, as a producer, as someone to work backstage, and all of the companies that TNA, WWE, and AEW briefly. So find out why. This is a great place for you to find out why Lance Storm is a very trusted person for these companies to have them go out there and plot out matches for the talent. If there's anything else, we can move on to match number 2. Super Crazy versus Tajiri versus Little Guido, who is known in WWE as Nunzio, in a triple threat elimination match. Not a triple threat, regular match, an elimination match. Do you know why I love this format a little bit more than a regular triple threat match?
Why?
The reason being is because you don't have to worry about like that third person. Like if this kind of makes it a little bit more real. You don't have like that fail safe where you can protect somebody because of outside interference or anything like that because someone else took the pin or someone else got disqualified. You have to eliminate one person first before you have to go through technically another match with the other person that remains. So this, for me, as someone that likes to still have a little bit of realness to the stories that get intertwined with wrestling, is a part why I loved some of the aspects of ECW.
That makes sense.
What about you guys, Wayne, Dre?
I mean, this is new. Like for me, like a triple threat elimination match. That's pretty cool because I don't recall WWE ever bringing that gimmick back ever. Not in a triple threat form, not in a fatal 4-way type of form. Yeah, I thought it was pretty unique when they announced it. And we got 3 high flying wrestlers. Well, Super Crazy for sure. And I do recall Little Guido getting they get the best of him because he's so small. And I recall like just him getting like wrecked by Goldberg by being speared in the Rumble once. I don't remember too much about him. I do remember the FBI. I didn't Super Crazy. If I'm crazy, do you guys recall him joining the Mexicools? Was that a thing? Okay, so I'm not super crazy.
No, you're not super crazy because I think this is one of the things, like one of the times where you have someone on maybe on a one-night contract.
Yeah.
And then like it ends up extending longer. He's in the company for like another 4 or 5 more years after this, just based on this pay-per-view performance.
Yeah. And then come on, Tajiri. Tajiri's been around for quite some time. I think he was around to like 2008 maybe. Like it was his last run. He was in some various storylines, but I recall a lot of Tajiri too when I was younger. I like this match just because of the different format. And I think it kind of went exactly how I thought it was going to go. I was like, oh yeah, they're probably going to do a big spot and take Guido out first, right? And I was like, and then we're going to get a pretty decent match between these two. Because now it kind of does feel almost like like two matches in one. Because you get that triple threat, and he's like, oh, now we get the one-on-one. So, but yeah, I enjoyed it. It's short, 6 minutes. It's fun.
We also had a triple threat match last week on Saturday with water balloons. When my kid was like, let's tag team or team up, and I'm like, no teams. There's 3 of us. So everybody for themselves.
But nobody was eliminated, huh?
No, our son was eliminated. He took a couple of shots from water balloons, and he basically quit.
He's like, I quit.
I'm leaving.
He waved the flag.
Augusto, if you're watching, go to bed because you shouldn't be watching this. But Dre, anything that you particularly stands out to you that you liked about this match, besides the balcony moonsault?
Well, yeah, I would say that was the big thing that stood out. Like, it was good seeing Super Crazy again because obviously, Nunzio, or AKA Little Guido, we saw little bits of him in WWE when they tried to resurrect, I guess, the FBI and WWE, but it didn't quite hit the same because they pretty much treated him as a joke, as more of a comedic act in WWE versus an ECW where they were treated with a little bit more respect. And obviously Tajiri, another one that had a lengthy run in WWE that we're all familiar with his work, if for nothing else than what he's done in WWE. But Super Crazy was the one that I kind of forgotten about and hadn't seen in a while. As obviously one of the great luchadors of the 90s wrestling. So seeing him was good, and obviously all the work that he had done over the years. And the other thing that kind of stuck out to me as I was watching this match was the fact that me and Doyle, our other PCW co-host, we saw, I'm pretty sure, all 3 of these guys at the Tribute to Extreme show we went to at WrestleMania last year in Philly.
Wow.
Like, they were there, and I know Guido worked and Tajiri worked a match. I think they worked a match together against each other. I'm trying to remember if Super Crazy was a part of that show or not. I want to say he was, but I can't 100% remember. But yeah, like, these guys are still to this day, 20 years later, still going in wrestling.
Doyle, if you're watching, and fans, if you're watching and you actually know the answer, if these 3, Super Crazy, Tajiri, and Little Guido, rehash this match at the WrestleMania 40 event last year at the ECW Arena 2300, I believe it's Philly.
Yeah,
drop a comment, leave us let us know, and don't forget to share with a friend. But Maria, you are familiar with Tajiri. This is your first introduction to Super Crazy and Little Guido. Who were you rooting for?
Super Crazy. Like, I have seen in East Coast, West Coast. That's pretty cool. But have I seen somebody moonsault off a balcony? No. I was like, holy shit. Like, I was impressed. Eyes wide open during this match because it was incredible. And you all said that you got to see them work a match. I would have loved to have watched that. I thought this was very cool. We get a lot of different wrestling styles. Introduction for me, and I think I may have seen them before, the FBI.
Mm-hmm.
What's the acronym stand for?
Full-blooded Italians.
And then who else do we have? Tajiri in this match. So I'd say watch it. It was a revisit for me. I thought this was very, very cool.
For you, okay.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool.
What about you, Dre? Is this also something that you would recommend for a longtime fan to revisit, or a newer fan who's for some reason watching the ECW One Night Stand because it's the 20-year anniversary of the show?
I would definitely recommend watching this. This gives you a bit of an insight to the extreme that was Extreme Championship Wrestling, while also getting some still good wrestling action between the combatants. So yeah, it's definitely worth watching.
Wayne.
Yeah. This a unique stipulation with a cruiserweights. These guys are cruiserweights. These guys are all under like 200 pounds. So you want to see a good match.
Maybe not super crazy. He looks like he's carrying a little bit more of a hunch in the front like me, but yeah, I could see they could still be a little bit of the cruiserweight.
Yeah, because I think I recalled him, being a cruiserweight champion at some point.
Yeah, I don't think they actually had I remember one instance where they actually did an official weigh-in, quote unquote official weigh-in, and then they lights out for Wayne. Right?
You're gonna clap on Wayne.
But I remember I think like one or two instances where they kind of stripped someone of the title for not making weight. But yeah, I completely know exactly know what you're getting at. But yeah, so you would recommend someone go back and watch this, or newer fans should watch it, like someone that's 11 years old who for some reason is deciding to watch this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay.
Absolutely. Being a stipulation match and being a cruiserweight. Yeah, I mean, you like the flips. You want to see that cool spot off of that balcony, for sure. Tune into this.
All right. And as for me, like maybe if you like a unexpected chaos, because you see these guys walking into the ring, Tajiri, Super Crazy, and Nunzio, you're like, there's no way these guys are gonna be doing anything that resembles anything extreme, and then you end up getting that balcony spot. So just because something is cool is gonna happen just because of that spot, and you just don't know, I would watch it. It pretty much encapsulates, like Wayne has said and like Dre has said, what the spirit of ECW was.
Yeah.
Like at any time, anything extreme can happen. Even if you're watching a Super Crazy Tajiri and Nunzio or Little Guido match, you don't think that there's gonna be anything crazy happening, something super crazy might happen.
So you're saying definitely a win. Yeah. And definitely a win for international relations.
Definitely. And with that, we'll move on to match number 3 on the card. We have another current WWE talent returning back to ECW. Rey Mysterio versus Psychosis. And a regular match. And this match goes for 6 minutes and 22 seconds. Wayne, why don't you kick us off here? Psychosis?
Yeah, I don't know much about Psychosis. I mean, obviously, Rey Mysterio, right? And a young Rey Mysterio. Real young Mysterio. How young? You can just tell by how many tattoos he has on by this time. But, yeah, young Rey Mysterio. I heard the crowd did not like the fact that Psychosis took his mask off. I think they really wanted him to keep his mask on. I also heard in this match, Rey was not happy with the way this match went. It didn't go the way he planned. I think having these two luchadors go at it, I think it was awesome. Like, I really enjoyed the match. But I was also disappointed because they did not get enough time. These guys only had like 6 minutes and 23 seconds. And I kind of felt that way with a few other matches on this card. Like, they just didn't get enough time to cook. And we have, compared to me and Dre talk about a lot, compared to the modern day pay-per-views, we have 7 matches on this card.
Right.
We're doing like 4 or 5 matches now on average. So it shows the difference of this pay-per-view is still like 2.5 hours long, I believe.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of, I understand. I don't know. I think most of it was just like promo videos, just of old ECW stuff. I didn't really see any wasteful time, but these matches are short. And as much as I enjoyed this match, I really wish it could have gone longer. I forget, the Psychosis end up going to WWE afterwards, and does also joining up with Super Crazy and the Mexicools, or am I wrong with that as well?
I don't remember Psychosis. Dre, do you have any memory of Psychosis being in the Mexicools?
That I do not have any memory of, because by this point, not too long after this is when I kind of fell out with wrestling in general. So the Mexicools is not a faction that I have a whole lot of memory of. So I couldn't tell you one way or the other if Psychosis was a part of that group. He might have been, for all I know, but I couldn't tell you one way or the other.
First off, sir, how dare you? Second of all, sir, yes, he was. And apparently they get Juvie, the juice, Guerrero.
Juvie juice.
Yeah, the juice is loose. So, Wayne, you remembered correctly. We get Psychosis and Super Crazy as part of the Mexicool stable that debuts later on this particular year of 2005.
I recall them driving down in John Deere's, and I remember they had a sticker on the set that said Juan Deere. And I remember just laughing because I was like, that was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Maria? Super Crazy. Rey Mysterio, Psychosis.
I was excited to see like a young Rey Mysterio, like you said. I thought this was an okay match. Was this a good match for y'all, or is this kind of a pass?
I think, to me, this is kind of a pass because, like, Joey Styles and Mick Foley are. By the way, the Joey Styles is doing a fantabulous job, bringing up the reins of being the commentator on here. It's a shame that Vince kind of drove him away from the business because of all the notes that he would be chirping in his ear throughout his calls. But yeah, like they mentioned that they've been feuding for like 500 times, quote unquote. But they, like Dre pointed out and Wayne pointed out, they don't get enough time to cook. 6 minutes and 22 seconds. And we're going to see this, unfortunately, throughout most of this card. There's only like 2 or maybe 3 matches that go over 10 minutes. And the rest of them are over like barely 6 or 7 minutes. And then the rest of it's video packages. It's basically like if someone just like told them, you know what, we don't have any time, so just pop in the rise and fall of ECW and just play the montages that we have on that DVD in between the time. So I can't really recommend this match, but I remember them having the match in WCW because I told Maria, and I go, this isn't Psychosis's regular costume or ring gear. I remember him having the black with the white stripes, and I showed her the picture and his mask on. That's how I remember Psychosis. Right. And like everyone probably at this ECW event was disappointed when Psychosis took off his mask. I was disappointed, but not because he took off his mask, because he came to the ring gear wearing all white, and I'm like, I have never seen you wear all white. You've always been black with a white stripe. So bring back that Psychosis.
Right. So like we mentioned earlier, you were talking about how people were upset. They were pissed off because he took off his mask. And for anyone that's a lucha purist, they're not supposed to take off their mask. So people were upset.
Well, he had already lost his mask. I don't remember where, if it was somewhere in Mexico. He had if he had a Luchas de Apuestas, where he had to lose his mask, and some people just carry it with them, and then they take it off. I have to look into it. Like, if you're watching and you know, please leave it in the comments and correct me, because some of these questions that Maria poses to me, I hear live, and I don't have enough. I don't do the research, and I think I do some in-depth research, and then this one comes out of left field. So, But
nothing but excitement, guys.
yeah, like, if you're wondering if we read off scripts or like some of it is of our notes, but not everything. It's all
I surprise
improv.
myself with questions.
So
Sometimes.
anyway, as far as if I would recommend it, I think the only thing that we'd be watching would be that like that guillotine leg drop that Psychosis gives to Rey.
Oh my god, yeah, how he hits him and his body just like flips over.
Yeah, I have it. Here we go. Let's see it here. Let's show it to the crowd.
Yeah.
Look at that one.
Look at
that one was pretty crazy to me.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, if you want to go back and watch some highlights of that, please find that highlight reel and watch it over again, because I've never seen a guillotine leg drop. Like the way Rey flips over on that, it kind of like, how did he end up flipping like that? Because like he doesn't have a very long body, so for him to actually still kind of flip over,
that was pretty funny. I enjoyed when they showed that again.
Yeah. And then but as far as like if this is worth rewatching as far as a longtime fan, no. But if a newer fan, like if you want to see more of Rey Mysterio's work, or maybe if I find it, I'll post it in the comments. Like if I could find that one Rey Mysterio and Psychosis match from WCW that I'm thinking of, I'll go ahead and link that. But if you just want to get like a little taste of the glory of Psychosis and a Rey Mysterio match, go ahead and watch this. But it's definitely a pass for me. Dre?
Yeah, I'm in complete agreement with you. This match is a pass. I mean, it's nice seeing Psychosis again and seeing a younger Rey, Rey with the baggy pants. But as far as this match itself, it's neither one of their best work. It's not, you can barely even count it as a representation of their feud or their work in ECW or WCW for that matter. This isn't as good as Rey's work in WCW. That's where he did some of his best work before going into the E. Psychosis, again, his best work. WCW basically took ECW's formula. The only thing you could give this a credit for would be to highlight the fact that ECW was showcasing luchadors in the States before anyone else.
Right.
They were the first ones really bringing those luchadors into the States and giving them national TV exposure. And then WCW saw what they were doing and basically plucked them all and said, come over here for more money. And then WCW showcased them respectfully. But WCW gets a lot more of the credit for showcasing, luchadors wrestling than they probably should, because it was really ECW doing it first. But this match is itself not really a good representation of it. And as we already talked about, the fans also kind of rejected this match as well at points. One, soon as Psychosis took his mask off, fans didn't like it. They started chanting, put your mask on, because that's what they were used to. They wanted to see Psychosis with the mask. Soon as Rey's music hit, you notice Rey, as popular as he was, which was super popular in 2005, in this arena, he got no pop. Why? Because it was it was the WWE music. It was that, who's that jumping out the sky, REY. Like, that's not what people wanted to hear. The WWE of this match is what really messed it up. He won the match by doing the 619 into the West Coast pop. It got no pop. People booed the 619 when he did it. Why? Because he never did the 619 in ECW. He didn't do the 619 in WCW. That was a pure WWE product, a pure WWE move that he was doing. And these ECW faithful crowd did not come here to see no WWE shit.
Right.
They wanted to see ECW stuff. And there was not as much ECW showcasing in this match as fans wanted. And I think that's why the fans were mostly down on this match. And for that very reasons why I would give it a pass. Like Carlos said, if you want to see them, look up their WCW match or look up some of their matches from actual ECW. because they're all way better than what this was.
Wayne.
Hey man, Rey Mysterio injured but still on the active roster today in 2025. Crazy.
Yeah.
And his son. But yeah, I mean,
Is it his son?
you can pass this match.
All right.
Like you guys said, go back and watch older episodes or older matches of these two if you want to get the full lucha experience.
All right. And with that, we move on to
Sabu.
well, but we have RVD cutting a promo because he has torn his ACL or something along this line. So he wanted to be part of the pay-per-view since it was his idea to have this reunion show, and he couldn't be there. He's talking to the Invaders up on the balcony, which is either I think it's Team SmackDown. Who's out there?
Point,
yeah.
Mhm.
And then the lights go out, and then Rhyno appears in the ring because he's now with the WWE, and he is going to start attacking RVD. And then the lights go out, and who is to appear but the genocidal, homicidal, suicidal Sabu. Rest in peace, Sabu.
Yes.
And he comes to the defense of his friend RVD. And then the impromptu match begins between these two guys, Rhyno and Sabu. Maria, you have seen Rhyno. I don't remember if
Many spears.
many scores
Gores.
ago.
Of course, yeah.
But you were there in 2024 in Philadelphia when we were sitting across from Sabu and having lunch with that man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed seeing this match. Also, he was wearing no shirt during lunch as well, so he was sticking to
He was living the gimmick even outside of a ring. Sabu was still rest in peace, just giving all the fans what they wanted to see. Him walking around showing the scar on his chest.
Yeah, I was like, okay. And then Carlos went in to explain. So it was an honor. I thought one of the good spots for me was when Sabu went through a table.
I think you're talking about this one. These are one of the few pictures I was able to find where he gets a chair and RVD is holding Rhyno and he gives him like kind of like a guillotine-esque leg drop with the chair. He completely misses with the chair, but he certainly does hit that leg drop.
Oh man, Rob Van Dam throws the chair at Rhyno at some point. And when he throws it, he throws it.
Like seeing all of these chair shots, not only in this match but later on in the card, I'm like, geez, you do not see any of those chair shots happening anymore.
No,
for a good reason, right? But I was just like, holy shit, through a lot of this. I was like, whoa.
Like being in that small arena that they were in, that those chair shots really echoed.
Yeah.
They were loud. So
with this, Maria, as one of our marks in training here, do you recommend a newer fan or a longtime fan who hasn't seen this pay-per-view in a match go back and revisit?
I do recommend that you revisit this. We have Sabu. We have, like you said, chairs, tables. We get a little bit of a botch. We get his big pants. I thought
parachute pants.
His parachute pants. Is that what they're called?
Sabu. Yeah.
Really good match. Very old school. Like you said, you're not seeing chair shots like that anymore. This was incredible for me to watch, and I'd recommend that you revisit. It was good.
Yeah.
Wayne, what about you? Do you recommend anyone go back and revisit, newer fan or longtime fan?
Wait, also RVD, like incredible. Sorry.
I mean, like, who's not a fan of RVD? Yeah, I enjoyed this. I mean, it sucks because I heard that this whole pay-per-view idea was Rob Van Dam's. He's the one who pitched it. And he's not the one who's able to take part in it. And I also felt like for this pay-per-view, this is where it started to pick up for me. This is where I started to like really enjoy it. Because this is where we started using more weapons, and we started seeing blood and God, the chair shots. He just took that chair and just yeah, and it sucks for RVD too. You know, being injured and just timing. He says, this is worse than missing WrestleMania. You know, and I think this is also before it's also a year before he wins his first WWE title.
But Shea eventually turned back into the ECW Heavyweight Championship title.
Yeah. So, I understand he was like, this is like my greatest moment in wrestling. But I was like, hey, you probably have another one or two. So, I enjoyed this. I like the whole Sabu coming out of nowhere with the lights. I thought that was so cool, the way to introduce him into the crowd. This is back when Rhyno was in great shape, a lot better shape than he is later in his career. The gore was so cool back then. He was just so good with the gore. Definitely, if this is where it starts to pick up, go back and watch this match. I think it was pretty good. The speech, too. The speech for Rob Van Dam.
Dre, go ahead and get to you before you get to mine.
Okay, yeah. This is where you're getting into the ECW of it all. The ECW that we know of, the ECW that people talk about. You're getting the names that everybody remembers. Rob Van Dam, Rhyno, Sabu. And as much as, obviously, I'm Team Gore all day. I think out of all the spears and whatever in wrestling, who's got the best one? Rhyno. I will say it every time. Rhino's Gore is the best one out of everybody's. I put it above our tribal chief Roman Reigns. I put it above Edge. I put it above Goldberg. All of them. The Gore was it for me. Ooh. So seeing him lay out Rob Van Dam with that, put a smile on my face. And Rob Van Dam speaking from the heart. You felt bad for him because, as Wayne said, this was his idea. He was the one who pitched it and got it off the ground to get going, and for him to not be able to work a match really the way he wanted to, you felt for him. But then those lights go out and they come back up and you just see Sabu in his famous pose. Yeah, that was probably some WWE production, but that's a moment where it worked. Of him showing up and them having that impromptu match, absolutely 100% fire all day. And even Rob Van Dam managing to get at least a bit of the Van Daminator in as he could with the chair. So absolutely, this is, as Wayne said, this is where the show really starts to pick up, because you're getting the ECW that everybody knows and remembers, starting with this match.
Yeah, and I think we can call this one another clean sweep. Like, this was like unhinged. It was a violent match. It was a crowd-pleasing match. They had like, please go out and watch this. If you haven't watched this and you're watching this, first of all, give us a like. Don't forget to follow us on all social medias, whether it's Blue Sky, Threads, Twitter. Yes, I call it Twitter. Yes, don't come after me. But this is definitely one, if you have not watched this pay-per-view, like, where you get to see the kind of work that Sabu got to do, why he earned the name of being a homicidal, genocidal, suicidal, man. There's a lot of work that Sabu has done previously before this match. And maybe we'll go down in the archives of whatever Peacock has available for us, and maybe in other means too. But if you're watching and you know of other matches, please feel free to drop it in the comment that you'd want Maria to see. But yeah, I definitely would recommend a newer fan to go out and watch this. If you are someone that is a little bit of younger age, please do not go and watch this without having a parent watch it along with you. But if you are a longtime fan and for some reason have forgotten how great of a match this is, also with the caveat that I think you kind of need this heartfelt speech that RVD is giving to you in the beginning. So I think you need to watch this. I think it's like a 15, 16-minute chunk of time between the match and the RVD speech. If you watch it all, because I think this is like one of the greatest promos that RVD ever cuts. Like RVD is not like the greatest mic talker. Not sure if like the writers weren't able to find his voice, and I'm not sure if he's the one that's talking, like if he wrote this himself. But I think this is like one of the times where RVD is just reading from the heart, and this kind of hits a little bit more in the feels, and you get like that whole emotion, no like setup, and then someone's here to ruin it. So it kind of like, it's like a whole story, like a mini storyline in it. Like, here's this guy pouring his heart out. He's saying that he can't be there, and he's talking. He's getting antagonized by the big company, the brand by SmackDown, and now he's about to be taken out because he's injured. And who else comes to the rescue but one of his closest and best friends, and they get to take it to him. Kind of like a little, like maybe a couple of months of storytelling all done like in the span of 16 minutes. So definitely worth a rewatch.
It was a revisit. Definitely a gory match.
Yeah. And speaking of gory, we get to another match. The son of Gory Guerrero, Eddie Guerrero versus Chris Benoit, ECW talent. Then I went to WCW talent, and now WWE talent. And this match goes for... Ooh, I lost the time here. Maria, do you have the time?
I had 10 minutes and 38 seconds.
10 minutes and 38 seconds. Thank you, Lane. Yeah, this is one of the few matches that I know went, but I wasn't sure if this was the 11-minute one or something. But
so they say that Eddie was reportedly pissed this night. Did you all hear that? Do you know why?
I heard that too. I guess maybe he just didn't like the way the match was finished. It just didn't go the way he planned.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't their best work in this match. Not that it was bad by any means, because they're impossible for these two to have a bad match. But
right,
yeah, compared to what we've seen of the both of them at their best, this wasn't it. Yeah. It was okay, but
I think it was kind of slow moving.
Yeah,
like there wasn't a lot of excitement for me. Yeah, and we all know the controversy around Benoit, so I was a little surprised when I saw him. We all know that. But you have two technical wrestlers that are very good wrestlers. I expected a little bit more, and I didn't get that from this match. What do you think?
Yeah.
I think it's like everyone's echoing here. Like, we've seen these guys wrestle before, whether it's in ECW or WCW, or even now that they made it to WWE.
Right.
This match goes for 10 minutes, 38 seconds, but it still felt like this match should have been like a 16 or 18-minute match. So maybe that's why Eddie, he might have been told in the curtain that, hey, we're going to cut you short here. And maybe that's why he was a little bit pissed off.
I have notes saying that allegedly he was pissed because he was left off of the main event so he phoned this in. He was pissed. So if you know,
if you are watching,
leave us a comment.
If you're listening, because we also, extract the audio and put it up on all podcast platforms. Feel free to email us at revisitingmania@gmail.com. If you know in particular, if you are a Guerrero, in particular, like maybe Chavo Guerrero Jr., Eddie's nephew, if you know why your uncle phoned this match in and was very pissed off, please send an email. But
is this after he lost the WWE Championship not too long ago? Is it to JBL he lost it to?
Well, JBL
had he lost it by June? Because he won it earlier this
year. Yeah.
Yeah, he had just won it at No Way Out earlier in the year.
That's earlier in the year, and then he had it at WrestleMania, and I thought he lost after because let's remember, guys, like he's only a few months away before he passes away in November, and and I don't think he wasn't champion by then either.
No, and I do remember when this is obviously once JBL had changed to this gimmick of the stock guy, the John Bradshaw Layfield, basically from Bradshaw. He became champion when he feuded with Guerrero and beat Guerrero, and that's how he became WWE champion. But I don't remember exactly when that happened. It may have been happening right around this time, or shortly before, or thereafter.
Yeah.
All right. So I pulled up this because I could not remember. We recorded this one, but Eddie had a match with Rey Mysterio, so he did not have the title as of WrestleMania 21. Backlash was right after that, and JBL. Oh, he was not even on the card for Backlash. So after Backlash,
you know what?
Was Judgment Day,
June
and Judgment
27th.
Day, May
So it was
26th.
so it was shortly after this because this was what, June 12th?
Yeah, June 12th.
So they were in this. So in other words, Guerrero and JBL were in the middle of their feud. So
that bull rope match, I believe.
So yeah, I guess that would make sense why Guerrero wouldn't be participating in the main event, which was basically the brawl between ECW and excuse me, Raw and SmackDown, because probably from Vince's perspective, it wouldn't have been a good look to have the WWE champion fighting on the side of ECW against Raw and SmackDown competitors. So that's probably why they left him out of the main event.
But still, like these are two great wrestlers. Like whenever we have to come across this controversial mishap with Benoit, I always put aside of who he was, and I always think of just him as the wrestler. So, that's why I thought this was a pretty decent match. It's just they didn't get enough time yet again. I agree. Like 5-6 more minutes, these guys could have put on an even better show. And the fact that one of them was not fully invested into the match probably made a world of a difference. But yeah, we got to see Eddie Guerrero get busted open pretty bad.
Yeah. I was trying to find the spot where he got cut around that whole little T-zone area, and I couldn't find exactly where that happened. So
yeah, I couldn't find it either. But I enjoyed this match nonetheless. So
Dre, you also say that this is a pass. That's correct?
Yeah. This wasn't really a quote unquote ECW match. This was more of just a WWE match taking place at an ECW show, and with a little blood thrown in to kind of quote unquote ECW it up. But this, like I said, is neither one of their best work.
All right.
Agreed.
And with that, we move on to the next match. Mike Awesome versus Masato Tanaka.
Do you think that this was the match of the night?
I think to me it was.
Do you think it was?
9 minutes and 52 seconds match.
Was it a good was it one of the best?
It was a good match, but it upset me the fact that they did not sell it as much as they should. As much damage and chair shots these men took, there should have been more selling.
Power bombs over the ropes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of agree with Wayne, but I'm not gonna nitpick about it like that because there's very heavy spots, brutality. High spots that happen on this match, and they all get done. I think there's maybe one botch on this particular match, but they kind of worked through it and tried it again.
What did Styles say to Awesome? He is not awesome. He is.
I'm not sure.
An ass.
Oh. Just say it.
He's an asshole.
Yeah. So, kids, if you're watching,
You shouldn't be watching.
You shouldn't be watching. But if you're watching this, if we made it to maybe 15, 18 years and this channel is still going, thank you for watching us if you're watching in the future. But, don't worry about what your mother's saying. Is what I'm basically trying to get to. But yeah, definitely something that this match kind of stuck out for me. Just when Mike Awesome just starts already with the suicide dive.
Yeah.
And I remember Mike Awesome, but I remember him more towards the end of WCW when he was that 70s guy. And I kind of like that gimmick. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of a fan of the Disco Inferno gimmick too. And once that whole thing went south with him, I kind of lost track of it. But him, the Disco Inferno, that 70s guy, and then who was the guy? Dre, maybe Alex Wright. At least he's the guy that used to dance his way and go like this.
Oh yeah, that's Wonder Kid, Alex Wright.
Yeah, there you go. That guy was always entertaining for me. But yeah, that's the whole little trio that I remember. Like, kind of had this little like dancing or like kind of like that 70s aesthetic gimmick that kind of worked for me. I don't know why, but it just did. But that's the reason why I remember more of Mike Awesome a little bit more. What about you, Dre?
Yeah, this match is pretty much what you would expect from these two guys. They were probably about as close as you would get to quote unquote big men in ECW. This wasn't the land of the giants that ECW was not known as the land of the giants. So Mike Awesome was their big guy, but he still could wrestle like a mid-sized guy and would still pull off, aerial moves and hardcore moves. It wasn't just like, I'm just a powerhouse guy that's just going to do a bunch of slams and that's it. So yeah, and these two had a long storied rivalry with each other. So just watching these two just try to beat the crap out of each other again, textbook ECW stuff, and it was great to watch.
Wayne.
Dude, I don't know either of these guys. I think I've heard of Mike Awesome when he came over to WWE a little bit. But the other guy, I have
no information on Masato Tanaka. I don't see him like popping up anywhere else. So yeah. I mean, I'm sorry if you're like watching this and you're a Masato Tanaka fan that I didn't do my research, and you're more than welcome to comment and give us a little bit more of matches or where he had his big run to come to notoriety. But I just didn't want to go down that rabbit hole, things like that, unfortunately. But yeah. I completely agree with Wayne. Like, these guys have the chemistry, and these guys have something, and it's just something where you see that complete opposite. The guy who completes you, the guy that knows what moves sell, how to sell for you, how to make you look great, but also have them look great. And the one spot that I took to this here is this DDT through the table. And I think this is the one where I mentioned there was kind of a botch one, but they still commit to getting this spot in. And I loved it. Like, there's the power bomb that they have, and I couldn't find a picture, but Mike Awesome power bombs Masato Tanaka through a table on the side of the ring.
Yeah,
outside of the ring, and that was another great spot. I can't say anything else about this match. I think this, like my wife pointed out here, our smart marketing training, is match of the night for me. I definitely recommend that if you are a newer fan to wrestling and you're watching this and you made it this far, but you will not be disappointed. This match has one of those things where I mentioned earlier, like, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know when this match is going to be extreme, because as ECW says, anytime, there's no DQs. You can bring barbed wire, you could bring tables, you could bring ladders, you could bring candlesticks, you can bring torches, anything, anytime.
Like WWF E, what? I'm like, I was
so
so impressed. I'm like, damn.
Yeah. And that was the thing about ECW. There were every WWE has to make a point of saying this match is no disqualification, or this match is a street fight, or what.
Yeah.
Every ECW match was that.
Yes.
They didn't have to tell you it was no DQ.
Yes.
DQ did not exist in ECW.
Yeah.
That's
so
why
definitely.
there were so many tables under the ring and chairs, because they just go through them so much.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder what kind of a bulk deal Paul Heyman was getting
On
for
chairs
all
and
those tables. But I think we can call this a clean sweep unless someone
Yeah.
has any objections.
Revisit, I'd say hell yes. Watch this match.
Yeah, definitely watch this. Holy crap.
Yeah.
All right. And with this, we come to the last match, unless someone has something to say about the heartfelt speech that Paul Heyman says before this match.
Go
ahead.
I was gonna say, I think like I love when he's sitting there breaking down some of the guys up there, and he, telling, I think one of my favorite lines was to JBL, the only reason why you've been champion for a year is because Triple H didn't want to work Tuesdays. Take SmackDown on a Tuesday. So, but Paul Heyman brought up Matt Hardy. That got a good pop, and Edge being as cartoonish as he is, and spitting out his beer and stuff. Yeah, go ahead, Dre.
Yeah, I was saying this. It may not hit as hard watching it now, but back then, at the time watching it, it was phenomenal watching this promo. Just seeing Paul Heyman come out there with the black trench coat and the headset on and all that stuff, just classic Paul Heyman, which is something we had not seen since ECW, because seeing him obviously in WWE, he's got his WWE hat on, and he's just in a regular suit, and he's Paul Heyman, WWE employee. So seeing him go back to the ECW and really basically cut about as close to a shoot promo as you could get in the moment, it was phenomenal. We ate that shit up and we loved it.
Yeah, I like that he starts off with, "These aren't tears. There's just something wrong with my eyes." Yeah. So it's weird to see Paul like maybe 100, 150 pounds lighter, and with the
smaller and genuine emotion, and before he did it at the Fall of Fame speech, this was when we saw Paul dust off the trench coat and the headset and all that. It was it was beautiful to see in the moment.
It was like all the videos that you saw before during this pay-per-view, there's even one where it's like seeing Paul Heyman and he's even skinnier than he is now when he's coming out to do this impromptu shoot speech, and she's like, "Who's that?" And like, "That's Paul Heyman."
Yeah,
that's the wise man, like maybe 35 years ago now up to this time. Yeah, so like
real old school people know him before he went by his regular name of Heyman, back when he was Paulie Dangerously in the old NWA WCW days, and he actually had a full head of hair, and he had the Dangerous Alliance. You want to see how skinny he was then? Go look up them pictures.
So with that, then we'll get into this match. So the Dudley Boys come back, Tommy Dreamer comes back, and the Sandman comes back, and we get a tag team between the Dudley Boys, Tommy Dreamer, and the Sandman. And as they're gearing up to get this match going, who comes by and starts to interact with the match? But friend of the podcast of PCW, the Blue Meanie and the Blue World Order, Stevie Richards and Kid Cash, Axel Rotten, and Balls Mahoney all decide to get into this particular, skirmish before the match starts. So we're already getting a little bit more of ECW originals into this match. And I think the Blue Meanie, like, he had his issues with WWE. Because I remember he was there early, like in 2000, 2001, something like that, when they had the Blue Meanie as part of the, what were they called? What is this stable called? Is it I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a bunch of weirdos together, and they had that real tall guy.
Oh,
The oddities or something.
He was part of the oddities for a little bit, wasn't
Yeah.
he? And then
he might have
yeah,
been.
yeah. So thank you. But yeah, I mean, like I had not seen the Blue Meanie on the WWE show, I think, until this particular one. But I was a fan of the Dudley Boys. I was a fan of Tommy Dreamer and kind of the Sandman a little bit, but not as much. What about you, Maria?
Was this a match? Was it a bar brawl? I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought it was pretty cool. I had a good time with this match.
All right, Dre. Okay, I think, did we lose Dre? Oh, he's muted for some reason. Let me see. Okay, they chose to mute themselves. Is the note I'm
My
getting.
apologies.
Right. He came to me when I muted myself. How weird.
Yeah, phone call came in the middle of recording. But anyway, back to this main event. This was ECW. Like I said, just like how I said about the previous match with the segment with Rob Van Dam and Sabu and Rhyno. This main event, this is ECW. This is what your friends told you about. This is the legend of ECW all summed up in this main event. Some of the biggest icons of ECW, the Dudleys, Tommy Dreamer, the Sandman, even other, less quote unquote lesser acts.
Lesser tier.
Yeah, lesser acts, but no less important. Blue World Order. The hardcore stuff you heard about, it's in this match. The blood you've been told about, it's in this match. The tables in this match, flaming tables, all of it is if you can consolidate ECW into one thing on this show, it's this main event. This is what you were told about, and they packed it all in as much as they could into this match. It was pure anarchy, pure chaos. Fuck a storyline, fuck a script. Who cares?
Yeah.
Give it to you.
Yeah, we had everything in this, man. I agree, Dre. All the chair shots, all the tables, all the kendo sticks. We had Spike Dudley come back. We had the flaming table. Like, by the way, that was a lot of lighter fluid he put on there.
Yeah.
He just kept spraying it. I'm just like,
yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't no small flame.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. It reminds me of there's a scene in The Simpsons where Homer's lighting the grill, and he's like the lighter fluid in the grill, and he goes through like 3 bottles, and you're like, oh my god, he's gonna light this, he's gonna blow the place. He lights it, it just goes. It's just like this small flame.
Yeah.
So, but it's still cool. Like anytime we do a fire spot that goes well, and holy crap, Tommy Dreamer lost a lot of blood. It all started with that cheese grater.
Yeah, Sandman busting out that cheese grater.
Man, that was rough. And you know what, though? Shit like that, now when you see Bubba Ray and you see Devon and you wonder why their foreheads are so freaking cut up.
That's true.
It's like an old piece of beef jerky, And it's
Especially Devon.
Oh, yeah.
Especially Devon. It looks awful, man.
I mean, Ric Flair, too, right?
Yeah, Ric Flair has that.
When Ric Flair sneezes too hard, he'll either poop himself or he'll bleed. So.
Abdullah the Butcher is another guy too.
Abdullah Butcher was one. Dusty Rhodes, yeah. A lot of those wrestlers whose foreheads are just permanently tore up and scarred.
Yeah, from bleeding and just everything else.
Yeah, but like, do you recommend, guys? Anyone go back? A newer fan, older fan like us, I've been watching wrestling. Do you recommend anyone go back and rewatch this?
100%.
Dude, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, for the brawl alone, and then not just that, we get Stone Cold Steve Austin at the end of this. Like, who would have thought Stone Cold would have even been on the card? I mean, granted, he was an ECW wrestler at some point, But to get Stone Cold and to get the big brawl at the end of Raw SmackDown versus ECW, the Blue Meanie spot, Taz coming back and choking out Kurt Angle. So there's so much to just unpack in just that couple of minutes, the way to end the show. So I think it was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say the main event, definitely watch. The aftermath and obviously the entrance of Stone Cold, which I remember at the time surprised everybody because he was in ECW, but it was it was brief. Obviously, they show him a little bit in the vignettes of the past, but the thing is, he was never a wrestler in ECW. ECW was kind of his in between phase, where after he had been released by Eric Bischoff in WCW, he was injured and he couldn't wrestle, but he was still needed stuff to do, so he was in ECW. He was basically cutting all those vignettes and promos and stuff that you would see. So that's really, he credits ECW as being where he found his voice, where he learned how to really talk on a mic, and he got that work in ECW to become the talker that he was when he finally came to WWE and then ultimately became Stone Cold. So it was a surprise to everyone that he did show up, because to most people, you think Stone Cold Steve Austin, you just think Attitude Era WWF. Most people don't think about his time in ECW or his time in WCW and stuff, even though they're because earlier in his career he wasn't huge or as big then. But for him to show up for this and give that nod to his past, his history, give that props to ECW was good to see. And I mean, the whole ECW WWE brawl, I'm neither here nor there about that part. To me, that just that's the WWE, that's the WWE production part of it, where it's not so much ECW. It's they still have to remind you at the end, hey, this is a WWE product, and they still gotta insert themselves in it. I could have done without that. Yeah, it was nice to see Taz come back and participate, but that part from the brawl on, I can do without.
Yeah, I'm definitely on Dre's point here as far as the WWE talent being involved. I would have loved it better if they weren't involved at all. You did not have to have Team SmackDown and Team Raw show up, especially when some of that talent was actually wearing ECW shirts. How can you say they're Team SmackDown and Team Raw when you have Jonathan Coachman and someone else wearing the ECW One Night Stand merch?
Yeah, even if it's like he's got it crossed out or whatever on it,
but as for me, I would definitely, if you watch this, like Wayne and I think Dre pointed out here, just watch the whole last, maybe I think it's 20-25 minutes. The beginning of this match, start at the beginning of this match, because like the Sandman and has like the longest entrance into this ring. So
yes,
just fast forward into where they're finally going to start the match. Once you see the Blue World Order show up, that's when you know the match is going to start. So start there and watch it all the way to the end, so you can get everything as far as that's concerned. But if you're just wanting to revisit this match alone, it does have some good spots. It does have lots of blood, lots of tables, lots of fire. And lots of grading. If you want like a little short synopsis of what the ECW time was and what ECW talent that made it to the grandest stages of them all, except for maybe the Sandman, but Tommy Dreamer I think was in a WrestleMania event. Even if it was like the opening act, you still made a WrestleMania card like the dark matches, but still.
correct.
I'm digressing. Definitely go out and watch the whole thing encompassed as a whole. But if you just want a little synopsis of it, of the match, sure, go ahead if you're a newer fan. But if you're a longtime fan, you want to see the whole thing.
Okay. So do we have any final thoughts or anything that you want to talk about as far as any episodes coming up? for PCW?
Oh, PCW. Well, we got Night of Champions. That's literally tomorrow, 1 p.m. in the afternoon, because they're all the way in Saudi Arabia. Actually, while we were getting ready for this, they already had SmackDown. I already read all the spoils, but yeah, we're just busy, nonstop.
Yeah. So you're gonna have your recap of the Night of Champions pay-per-view, or
yeah, we're Night Champions. Post show should be coming up soon. We might have to do it a little bit earlier because I'm going on vacation. But yeah, absolutely. The PCW train never stops.
Dre, do you have anything that's not PCW related?
Nothing really I can say that's not PCW related. Only final thoughts I would say about this particular One Night Stand show is don't bother with anything after this. I wish WWE would have just left this as a one-time only deal, because the follow-ups, none of them even remotely match what this first one was. They're not as good. They're not as special. They're much more WWE produced things than this, which still felt like ECW, even though it had obvious WWE branding on it. It still felt about as close to ECW as you're ever going to get without watching actual ECW.
Yeah, I could probably like agree with all you guys. Like this match, like regardless of how Wayne feels about John Cena, like he wanted to see ECW One Night Stand 2006 because John Cena was in it. But do not watch anything else. Vince saw how great the pay-per-view buys were for this and how much it was getting talked about on the interwebs wrestling community. So he decided to make not only this 2006 one, but like 3 more iterations. And he had the brilliant idea of making ECW as the 3rd brand, which caused a lot more chaos and eventually dies out, I think, in 2009, 2010. So yeah, it's a very short-lived run. It did not deserve it. This is why we had this title that ECW One Night Stand Revisit is a love letter to ECW. Mm-hmm. It was done
very romantic,
with a lot of passion, not only from the fans that showed up, which we even see the super fan Vlad in the audience, but also from Paul Heyman. This is kind of like his swan song, I guess you can say, his, like goodbye to wrestling brand that he got to go ahead and build up before he eventually had so many financial losses that he had to sell his library to Vince in the end. So I know we have made recommendations of matches that you should definitely come back and revisit. But if you have 2 hours and 30 minutes to kill in your day, you could definitely go back and rewatch this whole pay-per-view. I would not make fun of you or anything like that of the sort. If you have that time, go ahead and enjoy this love letter of ECW.
Yeah, and it wouldn't hurt to watch the documentary that WWE produced, The Rise and Fall of ECW, as well. It is actually a very well produced documentary.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too, because not only did they have that, but also Shane Douglas came out with his own documentary of ECW to counterpoint that. So maybe if you guys want to come back and we'll rewatch both of them, and maybe we can give a little.
I don't think I've ever seen the Shane Douglas one. I'd have to go find that one.
I'll text you or I'll message you once I had the title and I didn't write it down. So. But what about you, Maria?
Oh, I was going to say I definitely recommend that you watch this. I will rewatch this again. That's how good it was. I really enjoyed a lot of matches, so rewatch it. I love nostalgic wrestling. As you can tell, we're revisiting the Mania where we rewatch old WrestleManias. That's our jam right now. So that's all I got.
Yeah. And last thing before we head off, you can hit us up on all social media, whether it's Twitter, Blue Sky, Threads. We're at Revisiting Mania. If you want to shoot us an email, we're at revisitingmania@gmail.com. We also have a Facebook page, Revisiting Mania at whatever the Facebook group is.
Leave a review.
Leave a review.
Subscribe on Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your pods.
Yeah. And then we are still working through WrestleMania 37. Hopefully they become 2 nights, and it's just a little bit harder to get through when you have a newborn, or not newborn, but you have a smaller kid, and then you have another kid. So, hopefully we'll be able to get that out maybe later on in June, where we'll be celebrating our 2-year anniversary of putting out wrestling content for newer fans
already
and returning fans.
Wow, time flies.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Thank you very much for joining us. Have a great night.